For over 1,000 generations, the Jedi Knights were the guardians of peace and justice in the Old Republic. Before the Dark Knight. Before the Empire.
For my ally is the Force, and a powerful ally it is.
And the Force is what gives the Jedi his power. It's an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us, penetrates us, binds the galaxy together.
What god am I? The last of the Jedi will you be?
The dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural.
I'll never turn to the dark side. You failed, Your Highness. I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
If you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
Just for once, let me look on you with my own eyes.
Remember, the Force will be with you.
Yo! And welcome to Rogue One, a Star Wars podcast for winners, episode 211. I'm your host, Johnny, and with me from Queens, New York, born and raised, Mr. Michael Pappas.
How you doing, buddy?
What up? And a special guest, longtime friend of the podcast and of ours, the incredible host from the Canto Bight Dispatch, Miss Emily Lynn.
Hi, boys.
Hello, how are you? Thanks for coming on.
No,
How you
I'm
doing,
excited. Thanks for having me. I'm doing okay. I mean, as well as anybody's doing during this, I guess.
Yeah, it is a little crazy. So you are also a New Yorker like Mikey. Just let us know how are you doing? How you're still in Brooklyn, right?
Yeah.
So how are you? How is it over there?
I mean, it's weird because I know that everything's terrible and crazy, but because I'm inside all the time, I don't see any of that. I just have this sort of cabin fever like I assume a lot of people have.
My cabin fever isn't too bad. I've been getting out for work a lot more than most people. Well, first and foremost, and I say this almost every episode, I'm very thankful to still be working because I know a lot of people, their jobs were taken away because of this. They lost their jobs or they're on a hiatus or furlough, whatever the word is. But a lot of people aren't getting paid right now, so I'm very grateful that I'm getting paid. But I've been in my building a lot lately. I just put in back-to-back days. So like I don't have the cabin fever yet. Plus I'm a natural born couch potato. So like if it wasn't for like the real world threat of this virus, like sitting at home, you know, like those memes, A Gamer's Delight, like sitting at home, binge watching 8 seasons of Entourage and eating everything in sight, has pretty much been like glorious, except for of course the worldwide pandemic that caused it.
Did you finish yet? Are you all caught up on your second rewatch of Entourage?
I've got like 3 or 4 episodes left in season 8, and like season 8 sucks. Season
But you're
7
still watching
wasn't
it.
good. Yeah, because you got to finish. It's like you started it, you got to finish. Emily, did you ever watch that show?
I watched the first probably 4 or 5 seasons.
Before it jumped the shark with like the no spoilers for Entourage, right? Like the Mandy Moore shit, and then after Medellin, and
we're gonna have Entourage Twitter world pissed at us that we're ruining
God.
like a show that's been canceled since 2018.
But like season 5 was like the pinnacle of the show for me from a storytelling perspective. Come on, Johnny, like the last 3 seasons were, they were rounding it out.
Season 8 sucks. Season 7 was like once Vince, for those of you listening at home, is like the show's built around this movie star, or the making of a movie star, Vincent Chase, and his like 3 buddies, right? So the show kind of got ass when like he became a huge movie star. Like I liked the show when his career was up and down. They were rich, they were broke. You know, this movie bombed. Everyone's career was ruined. They were like living in like the older brother's apartment, you know, or living off of his like American Express car. Like that was like good. And then like next thing you know, like Vince made back-to-back blockbuster movies. And like if you keep tabs of like how much he's making, he's like worth at least 20 million. His manager, which means his manager's worth at least 2 million. And then his manager goes out on his own and has his own management group. And then like it got really stupid when like Turtle, the most pathetic of the group, if you will.
My favorite.
Sorry. No, but like when Turtle becomes a millionaire, you're like, all right, I'm out. Like,
Well,
come on.
What's the point of just watching a bunch of super successful people be super successful? It's not particularly interesting,
True.
dramatic tension or anything.
That's my point. Exactly.
It becomes like a Beverly Hills of dudes on Bravo, but not as exciting. Like it's like, but fictional as well. Didn't that happen though in like season 3 too?
Yeah, but I mean, like it was definitely a roller coaster. Like first he was like just starting out, and he had like all this potential. Then he hit it big with Aquaman, like you said. He was Aquaman before Aquaman was a thing, right? And then he did Medellin, right? The Pablo Escobar story, which then became a huge thing on Netflix, right? It's like they predicted Hollywood, which I thought was awesome too, by the way.
The
And then,
Aquaman thing was hilarious because they obviously chose Aquaman as a nobody's ever going to make an Aquaman movie, so we can make fun of it.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so true.
And I think even Mark Wahlberg said that one time, because it was during like the height of the superhero like craze, you know, Iron Man and Spider-Man, obviously, which they referenced. Actually, Mark Wahlberg said that in one of his interviews. It's like they had to pick something they thought would never be done, but recognizable enough.
Yeah.
Well, because DC failed tremendously, that an Aquaman movie needed to be made to make revenue after Justice League and BVS. Like, oh my God. Thank God for Jason Momoa.
I can't wait to try this out. So as you guys may or may not know by now, listening at home, we are now on YouTube, and the YouTube channel is Rogue One Pod. So just go to YouTube and search Rogue One Pod. So just go to YouTube and search Rogue One Pod, and you will see the episode. And it's not just like 2 or 3 talking heads. Our producer, Bill Beck,
Darth Pizza.
Yes, at Darth Pizza. He's doing such a great job. Like I'm going to use his real name. Plus, I like his real name, Bill Beck. Bill Beck. It's like Peter Parker. It feels like a Stan Lee Marvel name, Bill Beck. Peter Parker.
Love it.
As we do this, like he comes up with the visuals. So for example, I can't wait to do this. We were talking about Aquaman. So Bill, hit us with an image of Aquaman. Ta-da! That's my man Bill. See, this is fun. Bill, show us a embarrassing picture of Michael Pappas. All right. Let's not get crazy.
Yeah, you're just making work for him now.
No, because it's great, because I send him the shit anyway. Oh, by the way, like it looked amazing. He did an amazing job, the visuals, and he's passionately doing this. And then just a quick origin story on how the YouTube channel came. You know, Jason just called me one day, like a few months ago. It was a while ago. And he's like, yeah, dude, we're doing YouTube. Like, let's do this YouTube thing. And I was like, dude, I love it. Like, great idea. And then like, but I don't, you know, I have a new job. Like, time's kind of like rare. You know, Mike is, married, newly married. He's got a house. His job's not so easy. And then like, but it was always something we wanted to do. And then, Bill Beck has always been a listener.
It's blurred.
And then
Blurred
just
out.
one day we started talking, and it's a thing now. So thank you, the producer of Rogue One, Bill Beck.
And I want to say that Bill is also a video editor, a freelance video editor, and has his SAG, I guess it's SAG. He's worked on numerous Bravo shows. He's worked on a Netflix show recently.
As he said in our chat, Mike, he said, "Bitch, check my IMDb."
Yeah, he is on IMDb. I don't know if it's William Beck or if it's William Beckham, or how sophisticated you can get with that name. But anyway, he's in the industry. I believe he has his SAG, and he's just looking for work right now. I think the entertainment industry is also suffering. as well as many of us are in other industries. But this guy's very, very talented, and he's been a good friend of mine and Johnny's for the past 4 years. And one of our first listeners ever. I talk to him on a weekly basis. He makes me laugh constantly. And from me to you, Billy Boy, I love you, man. Thank you so much for being a part of this. It's great.
Thank you. I agree with everything Mike said.
You guys need to stop saying such nice things about me, or my pants are going to stop fitting.
And good segue, Michael, because the biggest piece of Star Wars news that we have to discuss, and ladies first. So recently, I was flipping through the interwebs. I love that phrase, by the way. And I just want to double check my source. See, watch this. Bill, hit me up with the Variety article. Bang!
Damn.
So Variety said The Mandalorian Season 3 already in the works at Disney+. And this is from Will Thorne from Variety. So Variety we take very seriously. That is a legit and as you know from Entourage, like Variety is extremely legit. So Season 3 already in the works. And if you read the article, obviously we're not going to read it to you. Jon Favreau's he's been writing it. So Emily, what are your thoughts on this?
I'm excited because I like the show. I mean, it's sort of hard to know before we even get season 2 how excited to be about it, but I have faith in the show. I like that first season so much that I'm definitely not ready to say goodbye to these characters yet.
Yeah, so do you think they're kind of a little too quick on already greenlighting and working on season 3?
I don't think so. I mean, season 2, they've already wrapped all of filming, and you want to have all these people locked in.
True.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was such a big hit for them that I imagine they want that like as a firm thing to have in the future.
Yeah, and I was thinking if season 2, we know it's been shot. Let's say it's being edited right now, right? There's someone, Jon Favreau and a team is editing season 2 while Jon Favreau has been writing season 3. So then that leads me to believe they're going to try and pump out these 8 episodes yearly, which would be awesome because that seems like the type of schedule they're on. And before I ask Michael his opinion on this, I just have to say, I don't know if this show can exist in my world without Baby Yoda or the child. Season 1 ended with him trying to find Baby Yoda's home planet and dropping him off with his people. E.T. phone home, go home type plot. I'm not feeling that. It's a package deal with me. It's like The Mandalorian and Baby Yoda. So I don't know if I can love the show as much without Baby Yoda. And then just part 2 question for you, Mike. What do you think about this news that season 3 already in the works?
It's Star Wars, man. The first one was successful, so it just makes sense to me that they would plan ahead. You know, when Disney acquired Lucasfilm, they said they're going to do 3 movies. They didn't know if The Force Awakens was going to be a hit. I mean, they assumed it would do well because it's Star Wars attached from the franchise name, but they already committed to 3. And I think Disney's already accepted the risks that need to be taken to have a successful future of this franchise. And they believe in Jon Favreau and they believe in Dave Filoni. I think he's going to be a huge part of these next 2 seasons, the 1 season that's already been filmed and in post-production and following. So it just makes sense to me. You couldn't call me biased, but Disney Plus had a huge uptick on subscribers based on that show, and the show is a huge hit. Everyone's take on that show was, yeah, Baby Yoda was a huge hit, but I think Baby Yoda was the bait. And I think now that they've got us all tuned in, that Baby Yoda may still be involved, but they now have the audience and they now have the production dollar backings by Disney to have a lot more creative freedom and production value behind them to do a lot more cool shit. So I think it's a lot broader than just, okay, we only like this because of Baby Yoda, and now we already finished season 2, so why the hell are they just booking season 3? I think they're already looking a couple years ahead from an analytical and strategic standpoint. And this is coming from a marketing background, obviously, and how you market content and also how you market a brand. But I think that they're really smart in doing that and just getting the jump on things. And also for us as fans who love the show, we're just going to get season 3 that much quicker now. You know what I mean? Like, if you love the show, they're going to start pre-production probably soon, really soon.
Yeah. And let me be very clear here. I care about The Mandalorian because he cares about Baby Yoda.
For now, you do, though. But we don't know about Jaren's Darren Jin, blah, blah, blah. Maybe we'll learn more about him, and then we'll relate more to Pedro Pascal's character as this goes on. Like, I feel like I don't have an attachment to him yet because we were so attached to that other thing that he's taken care of, which is the Bebes. But I feel like maybe season 2 will open him up more. I want to see more time with the helmet off. Yeah, like it's so hard to like get that relatableness to a character that you love when there's a helmet on him all the time. And the last episode gave us a little bit of emotion with his helmet off. I would love to see Pedro Pascal communicate with Baby Yoda as Pedro Pascal without the helmet on. And like, if those scenes are fucking fire and hysterical and cute and adorable, I think that I would relate to him more while we're getting more of his backstory that he has dramatic scenes with. Does that make sense to Emily Lind?
Yeah, I understand that. And I think considering that the dude has a helmet on all the time, they've done a really good job of still making him a character. But I do miss seeing facial expressions, and that would be nice. That's, like eye movement is a really important thing when you're connecting with a character. And especially if we are going to get more of his backstory, which we obviously need to do, and hopefully more backstory on the Mandalorians in general, that'll help. I already like him, but I feel it's a character, like all the stoicism, plus the helmet, plus we don't really know much about what the Mandalorians are in this show. It puts you a step apart from him, which is weird for a main character on a show.
That's why I think season 2 will see more interaction with just him and Baby Yoda with the helmet off. Because, like, does Baby Yoda really count by breaking the code if the mask is off? And that's another whole thing that I haven't even brought up yet, but I've been thinking about it.
Yeah, I was actually thinking the same thing, Mike, because they built this whole aura and mystique around the Mandalorian not taking his helmet off, but they didn't get like a borderline A-list actor to play the part for no fucking reason, not for a voiceover. You know what I mean? So clearly, I think in their future, they're going to have the helmet off. And if they keep the child in the show for seasons upon seasons, as they should, it would be a brilliant move when it's just him and Baby Yoda. The helmet's off, it's a fucking baby. I mean, are mommy Mandalorians nurse feeding with the helmet on? You know what I mean? Don't show a picture of that, Bill.
But if he's his fostered father, it's family. And in family, I feel like you don't need to keep the helmet on, so it's acceptable at that point.
That's exactly my point.
Yeah.
I'm saying it would be a genius move of the network to or Lucasfilm, Disney Plus, etc., to have the scenes with when it's just Mando and Baby Yoda having the helmet off, like they're in the ship. My helmet's off, like it's like basically my son, my adopted, son. It's my child, And I better get like little like I better get kisses, little nose rubs, like baby.
I don't know about all that, but like if you thought like
that's what I need. Don't dismiss my opinion.
The button pressing, like even with the helmet on, when like he's like, in the ship, like when Baby Yoda presses all the buttons and he's like, dude, could you imagine if Pedro Pascal's mask was off and they have like a interaction, like face to face and the facial expressions? They think we're gonna get a lot of that shit. And regardless of the regardless of that, just me thinking about, I mean,
like I would, like Chewbacca. Bill, show us Chewbacca. All right, so just like rub his ears and just I would love up on some Baby Yoda. What about you, Emily?
I mean, cute. Yeah, of course they love Baby Yoda, and I don't think Baby Yoda's not going anywhere. They know what they have in Baby Yoda. They know it's the most popular thing on the show, and the most honestly, right now, probably the most popular thing in Star Wars. And just because he now has his mission, which is to go find his people. I mean, nobody knows who his people are. And there's still so much story to tell with him because literally the only thing we know about Baby Yoda is that he is Baby Yoda and he has the Force. We still don't even really have an explanation of who all is after him and what they want to do with him. So there's still years of storytelling there.
Well, we know who was after him. We know the remnants of the Empire was after him, right?
Yeah, but what exactly, we still don't really know what those remnants are and what their whole range is. Is it just, what is Esposito's character, Moff Gideon.
Yes.
How many people does he have? Is this an actual, like, large remnant of the Empire that is trying to take over again? Or is it like an offshoot that has completely his own agenda and it's just like purely his own power that he's after? There's still lots to learn.
So here's a question. Emily would probably know better than Johnny and I. As we're approaching season 2, we've got all this Project Luminous going on around, and get all this extra content in terms of literal and comics and shit. Like Moff Gideon, season 2 Mandalorian, do we have any like comics coming out on who this fuck, like what platoons is this guy with after? This is before the Battle of Jakku, right? 5 years?
Wait,
right? No.
Way before.
Way before, my bad. But like, are we getting any extra reading, literal content?
We still don't know. Is the Empire still existing, or is this just like rogue people who were in power that still have money, ships, and people that follow them? We still don't really know. Is this the beginning of the First Order? Is this, or is just and I hate to say it, just like the Thrawn novels, Bill. Thrawn was like, Thrawn existed in the early novels. The Emperor was gone, but the people underneath him didn't know that yet. So it was business as usual for him, and so we don't really know. Like, Emily, do you have a take on that?
I don't yet, and it's one of the things I'm most fascinated by, and it's one of the reasons I was really excited for the time period of the show, even though in general I want Star Wars to go further away from these years that we know. But I think the setting of what happens when a empire falls, like a small E empire, especially like a really tightly controlled fascist one.
Right.
Just the idea of the vacuum that creates, but also all those people, most of them anyway, are still alive. Like all the little Moffs who are off running planets, those guys, I guess the New Republic has rounded up some of them, but probably not all of them. And what does that mean for the planets on which those guys on the outer rim somewhere are still in control?
A lot of Star Wars, from George's take, the original Stormtroopers and the Empire was taken from a lot of the old war movies, specifically even the war itself is World War II. Johnny, as one of my personal friends, knows more about that war than anyone I know besides my father. And I would love to know when they had ranks and platoons and set in Italy and in Greece and in some of these third world countries at the time when Berlin fell and Hitler fell, like there was all these like siloed, like small armies basically around the globe. Like, did those generals just like go off, or did they just give in? Or in a space fantasy science fiction world, could that same scenario happen where they don't just drop their guns and surrender, that they can go off on their own? And I think that could be what Moff Gideon is. Moff Gideon was like a general of the Empire, and he didn't want to give up. And there's conspiracy or cahoots going on between a few of these generals where, all right, let's like get some new technology. Like there's all this conspiracy around World War II, from nuclear science to other crazy things. But like Baby Yoda's like the MK Ultra of World War II, so to speak. Johnny, what do you think about that shit, right? Like, is this dude just...
I actually really like your analogy. So staying with the World War II stuff. So let's say, General Patton, right? You got Patton, MacArthur. Patton's the most famous one, so we'll go with Patton. So General Patton is in Africa with like a huge fucking United States army, right? And let's say, for the sake of argument, the United States loses and the continental United States was blown to smithereens, right? Well, fucking Patton's in Africa with his army. It's not like, his tens of thousands of troops are going to like put down their guns and be like, all right, well, so this is over now. I'm just, all right, bye, General Patton. No, he's still that dude, like in charge. They're going to look to him for leadership and answers. And especially, like, again, back to the Thrawn analogy, Thrawn's troops didn't know the Emperor was defeated. It's easy to hold that control without the information. And even if it was common knowledge, again, just go to the common soldier. All right, so now what? You're still going to look to General Patton. And maybe that's what, like, Moff Gideon is in that situation, or these little pockets of remnants of the Empire that we're seeing in the Mandalorian.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you're, especially because, and here you're talking about a galactic scale, so if you're on a backwater planet somewhere where you have Moff Smith in control, first of all, you might not hear that the Empire fell for months, possibly years, but even if you do hear that, unless the New Republic is actually sending ships to save you, you still have that Moff who has probably a whole bunch of stormtroopers around. They have all the supplies. They have all the guns. They have like all the technology under their control. So even if you know, hey, you guys lost, you can't really do anything.
No, you really can't, honestly. And I think that some of those generals may have taken more power to them that they didn't really have before the Emperor was not around, right? Like Moff Gideon's probably like, all right, the Emperor is destroyed. I'm going to still go ahead and figure out a plan to get the Empire back to where it needs to be, so to speak. Because I have a platoon plus my other Grand Moff buddy on another outworld planet next to me, comlinking me. Like, yo, I got this shit under control. We're gonna bring this shit together, get some good tech, like Baby Yoda, and let's figure some shit out. It's like they're trying to build it back up. I'm gonna say one thing that's crazy, but Randy Giudice stayed at my house for, what was it, New York Comic Con in 2016 or 2017, and we watched Finding Hitler on the History Channel, and we marathoned it. It was 8 episodes on the History Channel. And it was the idea that Hitler went to Argentina. He got out of Berlin and he went to Argentina. And I was with Randy in my crib. And we just watched his shit. And that show reminded me of the idea that, like, okay, so if Hitler bailed, right? And he has all these other platoons that know he bailed, but he didn't really bail, which is like Operation Cinder, where the Emperor is still kind of alive, but not really. But like his next execution needs to go forward. It just, a lot of this, I apologize about bringing up World War II a lot, but it relates a lot to me. When an empire like that falls, and a dictatorship like that falls, where like the aftermath is the generals collaborate and create some type of new version of the Plan B. Anyway, if Randy's listening, he'll remember that night, because we had some really good theories based on the First Order on that specifically, by the way. Sorry,
if Randy's listening, you come on next week, buddy. I miss you. All right, so
Finding Hitler.
Let's get controversial. All right, are you ready, Emily Lind?
I'm ready.
First off, I'm a little jealous of the relationship you have with Chris Fresh.
Okay.
I hear you guys are getting married.
Yeah, we are.
I'm Joe. What? What the hell?
I mean, I guess
Johnny,
it's my
what the fuck?
I guess it's my fault. You know, I committed to Sabrina a little too early, but I have to live with this now as I watch you.
Which of us are you jealous of?
It's between the DMs. It's between the DMs. No, but so recently I kind of made a big deal about Ahsoka being involved in The Mandalorian Season 2, which is yet to be confirmed, but the way that Rosario Dawson was talking about it like a giddy schoolgirl, you know, I'm pretty sure it's like definite. What do you think, Emily? What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I mean, I like Ahsoka on the Clone Wars, but if she's on it, I hope it's just a very brief cameo, like 1 episode thing, because I want The Mandalorian to be its own show. And yes, I mean, obviously it's Star Wars and there's always going to be references to stuff we know. But for the most part, I really like the fact that it's all been its own characters. And I feel like the characters on The Mandalorian have been really strong. And there's so many cool people who have come in who I want to get to know more of. And so I kind of, it sounds silly, but I almost resent Ahsoka coming on.
That's why I love you. That's why I love you. I am 110% with you. Like, I'll take a short, cute Ahsoka Easter egg, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would love an Ahsoka Easter egg, and I wouldn't mind an Ahsoka guest appearance. Just exactly how you said it, Emily. You said it perfectly. But like, yeah, it's like, stop with the Ahsoka. So you're coming from it from the angle of, dude, you're strong enough on your own, Mandalorian. You gave us original new characters and we bought in and we love it. Good for you. You don't need to bring in old shit. That's kind of like what you're saying, right?
Yeah, but I also, and I do agree with you on I'm sure Dave Filoni's a really nice dude, but oh my God, the obsession with this character.
Yes.
Can I pause
Wait.
both of you real quick though?
Yeah. Let me just tell Emily how much I love her and how happy I am that I have an ally in the okay, enough is enough, Dave Filoni, and you and your Ahsoka. Thank you very much.
We're all in the same demographic, and we were introduced in the Clone Wars and like right after the prequel trilogy, and to us it was like, oh cool, Anakin had this Padawan. We watched the Clone Wars. Some of it was awesome to most of us. To some of us, all of it was awesome. A lot of us hated it. and Ahsoka may be an afterthought to a lot of us. But have you thought about the demographic that's not us, that got introduced to specifically the female fans in the early 2010s that were introduced to Star Wars through Clone Wars specifically, and that was their Princess Leia. And do you really think that Lucasfilm and Disney would go ahead with Ahsoka being a huge part of the next decade in Disney Plus, and even still in Clone Wars that's not even finished yet in season 7 that's coming out in the next few weeks with the Siege of Mandalore? That, like, okay, they should probably tell Dave to move on, but they didn't. And George isn't involved anymore. George probably would have let Dave do whatever the fuck he wanted. But, like, I feel like there's enough fan base is what I'm trying to say. There's enough fan viewership there that there's, trust me, guys, when it comes to marketing content, there's analytics there. There's how much product is being bought from the franchise perspective. I feel like Ahsoka is wanted by the consumer and wanted by the fan outside of our demographic. I mean, the three of us are, you know, and I think Emily can probably speak to this better than the two dudes, but
the thing about that is, yeah, Ahsoka is well loved by people who are really into the Clone Wars, but the Mandalorian and I mean Star Wars in general is so much bigger than the hardcore Star Wars fan demographic. The hardcore Star Wars demographic is not where Star Wars makes money. It's not where any big franchise makes the money. And I think this over reliance on her, it just sort of makes me tired. Like, I love Princess Leia. I don't think they should be putting Princess Leia in every single thing that Star Wars does. And maybe if she's important to female fans, make some more kick-ass female characters. You got Gina Carano in there, bring her back, which we know they're doing, but bring some more too. Like, I don't want it to be Ahsoka is your one female character, so we're going to put her in everything.
Fair enough. Do you think that that's why they, for Ahsoka's re-trust building arc, they picked these two sisters? Are you caught up? Oh shit, Johnny's not caught up, so I can't talk about this.
Are you caught up on?
I am.
All right, want me to step away for like 2 or 3 minutes, 5 minutes?
Oh no, just really on the very basic of that arc, it's just Ahsoka is meeting up with this pair of sisters, and I do think that is an intentional choice, is to make them women.
Yeah, it's basically to rebuild her trust in people or beings, basically. But I do think that they made the decision to keep Ahsoka alive at the end of Rebels, and now they're stuck with that decision. So there needs to be, it's really tough. Filoni is biased to the character, and there's already open space for her storyline now that she exists by the end of episode 6 in Return of the Jedi. So it's tough for me because I've always loved and I don't want to sound egotistical, but I just love my male heroes. It's just how I was brought up in the early 80s because of how the world was. I do agree with you, though, that we should move on from that character. She's not the best character, at least in my personal opinion. I mean, I don't know, Emily. I will tell you this. I am excited for the end of this arc. I think the way the arc, without spoilers, the way the arc started on Friday was a really, really good start. So I'm really excited to see how that ends. Are you excited to kind of see how that?
Yeah, I am. And I like this. I mean, at least that first episode, I like a lot more than the other two arcs in this season. But man, it's okay for a character you love to have an ending. In fact, I prefer that. I like characters' stories to be done, and then it's a complete thing.
Yeah. I think where they messed up is that he had complete control, meaning Filoni, and Fulcrum turned out to be Ahsoka. And then you open up this other can of worms where the original can of worms wasn't really completed because she walked away from the Jedi Order. Now you open up another can of worms where she's Fulcrum 15 years later, whatever the fuck Rebels is. And then there's still, at the end of Rebels, now you may have opened up another can of worms. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, this character is gone on from like the Clone Wars to post Jedi to maybe even post Mandalorian. It really kind of fucks with the continuity in a sense, but they've got to wrap it up. So they're adding story to her journey because there's so many blank portions of her timeline that we don't know about. So like,
not everything has to be explained. They don't and it's the same thing. Like, please, for the love of God, eventually get away from this. Like 40 years. It's one of the reasons I'm excited about the High Republic stuff. But you can just let those things go.
Mm.
You don't have to explain everything she's ever done, and you don't have to invent time travel in Star Wars in order to bring this character back.
They did. Ezra pulled her out. He pulled her the fuck out, man. It's a debate, man. It's really a debate. I'm not gonna sit here for another 20 minutes and go back and forth, but you and I will probably talk about this as friends for the next 10 years for sure. So.
Because Dave Filoni's still going to be making fucking shows about her.
No, I think we're close. I believe that we're close to her. I hope. I think in The Mandalorian it will end. I could be wrong. It'd be the perfect time in the timeline to end it. Because at the end of Rebels, she's with Sabine, and we don't know, like, well, maybe we do. I just can't think of it right now. But it's after Return of the Jedi, and this is obviously 5 years after Return of the Jedi. But like, if Rosario Dawson is cast as the character, maybe there's a sacrifice that Ahsoka needs to make to save that baby.
But they're already they're already doing that Rebels sequel show that's probably going to be about Ahsoka.
I don't think it will be, though. Even if it is, there's a 5-year gap there. Because like when her and Sabine are in the future, you don't know if that's 2 years or 3 years after the Battle of Endor. And obviously you can make 25 episodes in a month of Star Wars time. Parsec time, whatever the fuck, you know what I'm trying to say. So they can squeeze that in before Mandalorian season 2 or season 3. So if they want to do Rebel season 2 with Sabine and Ahsoka, they can squeeze that in before she meets Baby Yoda and Din Djarin. That's what I think. But it's got to end, and that's the great way to end it.
I don't think they're bringing her into live action just to kill her.
I think they'll bring her into live action as a surprise ending for season 2, have her in all of season 3, and have her be a sacrifice at the end of season 3.
I mean, it's not a surprise anymore. That ship has sailed, unfortunately.
Well,
Yeah, I said that a while ago. I was like, if this is my surprise for season 2, I'm pissed. I mean, like,
she's going to show up at the last episode. You know that, right?
I know, and if it's like if Emily's saying, like, if this was our Baby Yoda moment for season 2, I'm mad. Like, I'm legit angry. Like, they took that away from me. Do you think season 2 has a chance to be better than season 1?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I hope it is, because that just means great Star Wars viewing for us. But I'm skeptical, man. I don't know, and I'm not saying it's gonna be bad. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying, like, that's how good season 1 was. I mean, out of 8 episodes, I loved 7 of them.
One thing you have going for, and there are plenty of shows that have like sophomore slumps, but one thing that it has going for it is it already has all these pieces set up and in play, so you don't have to necessarily introduce a lot. You have wound up these toys and now you can let them move. And I'm hoping it's going to be a season that is, although I'm sure it's not going to be like an 8-hour movie. I do hope there's some more a longer connecting thread throughout all the episodes, and fingers crossed they're actually going to have Moff Gideon in play a lot, because I think one thing this show was missing in the first season is this is our bad guy, who is like not just an episode of the week bad guy, but he is like the big bad. And not every single episode's going to be about him, but it's always going to be in there, like at least in the background.
Emily, that Darksaber needs to come back into play. And that Darksaber indirectly relates to who in your who's still alive? Who does that relate to?
Well, it's going to be how they bring in the Ahsoka thing, I think, because that's the
and who is with Ahsoka at the end of Rebels?
Yeah,
Sabine Wren.
What's her name?
Sabine Wren.
Yeah.
Who was the Camelot, the King Arthur of the Sword and the Stone. She was the rightful heir of that sword at one point, and she's still alive in this time period, and that's her. The Wren clan had rightful heir to the Darksaber at one point, and if you're bringing Ahsoka back, and the last time we saw Ahsoka post Return of the Jedi was with Sabine, I feel like season 3, that's Favreau and Filoni's play, is we'll get a live action Sabine Wren. And I don't know how both of you feel about that, but that's just where, if the Darksaber is involved in the last episode of The Mandalorian, and now we've got Ahsoka coming in season 2, and the last time we saw Ahsoka was with Sabine. You guys know what I'm getting at, right?
Yeah. All right. So let's wrap let's wrap this up, because we're running out of time, because now we're like kind of like an hour-long podcast due to.
My bad. We used to do 3 hours. Remember we used to do 3 hours? That was cool.
Yeah. That's when we were like.
A few nights. It was a few nights.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we ever tried. I mean, sometimes we would do. Anyway, all right. So, Bill, I love this, by the way. Bill, bring up a picture of that Forbes article. This is from Scott Mendelson, contributor to Forbes. Forbes, if you don't already know, Forbes doesn't like to write nice things about Star Wars. They rarely kind of like beat them up, especially this guy Scott. So his latest article released on April 20th, that was yesterday. We were taping on the 21st. The title of the article is this: The Last Jedi didn't undo The Force Awakens, but Rise of the Skywalker retconned Disney's Star Wars saga. So if you read the article, he basically makes a couple points that we've kind of heard before, but now it's like kind of getting more traction, because before, like, bloggers, podcasters, Twitter folk kind of said like, oh, you know, The Rise of Skywalker completely retconned The Last Jedi and blah, 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 blah. And The Rise of Skywalker, you know, basically just undid everything The Last Jedi did. So he mentions that, and to add credibility to his point, he mentions that he spoke to a couple editors. I don't know if that's true or not, but whatever. And again, like, even if the editors did say this, they're people just like you and me. It's just their opinion. So first, let me just ask you the big question, Emily. Do you feel The Rise of Skywalker purposely went out of its way to change the things that the fandom didn't like in The Last Jedi?
I absolutely think they did.
Which couple main examples do you want to give?
I mean, I think Rey's a big one, but also
her lineage, you mean?
Yeah. I mean, and that's not just like saying that. I mean, Rian Johnson has said he was told that there was not a specific lineage for Rey, and he could write what he wanted to write. And so then, because this is the one thing that really bothers me, is this is something JJ said, it's something Kathleen Kennedy said this, oh, we were always going to bring the Emperor back, which is
bullshit.
Utter bullshit. Because if you're going to do that, you at least lay seeds for it in the other movies. We would have seen some of those, or what are they, the acolytes and stuff. We would have seen them like in the backgrounds and stuff. We would have seen, like, we would have heard them talking about rumors of the Emperor coming back in the first two movies. And so that does, I don't know, I feel like, to me, it feels like it retcons a lot of the themes and the feeling of The Last Jedi and what The Last Jedi was trying to accomplish more than any specific plot point.
Yeah, now, admittedly, I always wanted Rey to be somebody, right? I've said that since day one, right? And I wanted her to be a Skywalker, but I always knew she was somebody. So even The Rise of Skywalker made me, we'll call it half right. She ended up being somebody, but not a Skywalker or Palpatine. I was still looking at it like, ew, you really made her a Palpatine out of nowhere? Even though I was a fan of Rey wanting Rey to be somebody, I even felt icky watching that. Like, you really just made her a Palpatine out of the blue? Like, really? So as much as I don't really like this Forbes writer and the negative stuff he said in the past about Star Wars, I kind of agree with him on this one too. You know, I agree with him, and I agree with you, Emily.
I don't like him particularly. I do agree with him quite often. I think he's kind of an asshole.
No, I think he's a total asshole. I've never liked him throughout the whole sequel trilogy. Everything he's ever written on Forbes is shit. He had some really good points, and Johnny, I've agreed with you on a lot of the points that you agree with him on. However, he's always looked at the negative and not the positive, not the glass half full, more the glass half empty.
It does seem like all of his articles are kind of like anti-Star Wars. But again, there's people that make a living off of podcasts and YouTube channels that are just anti something or other, right?
There's always the glass half full or the glass half empty to all of this. And you can go 3 layers deep on either side, which we don't have the time to do right now. I think Scott's portrayal of it, I think it's his personal unhappiness with the direction that was taken is just keeping him on the negative. And however the three of us personally feel about the finale of the sequel trilogy, Scott's always, again, the glass is half empty. And I try to stay positive because it's just who I am. I thought Johnny was right at the end of the film. Johnny was saying she's a Skywalker. The film ended. I looked at my wife and I said, Johnny was right. What was the last line in the movie? But there's a lot of debate there that I don't want to get into. Spiritual, physical, blood. Who gives a fuck? Blood, spiritual, physical, whatever. I think Johnny was right. Johnny thinks he wasn't right because they fucked it up. It was just done, and I don't want to get into it right now. Thanks, Jackson. Jackson agrees with me. So.
Scared the crap out of me.
All right, so like it's almost as if they were like, we want Rey to be a Skywalker, but that's too easy. That's too predictable. So what we'll do is we'll make her a Palpatine, and then she'll take the name Skywalker, just to like not make it so color by numbers. You know what I mean?
She's a Skywalker through the Force's will. not through physical blood. And that's a whole other. I can write a thesis in Harvard if I stayed sober for 3 weeks and I took my philosophy courses like stage 3. I could probably prove a lot of people wrong because I'm really, really smart. I just drink too much. But
I'm smart, Mikey. I'm smart.
I'm smart. Listen, I'm smart. I want to take this class. I want to go to the Red Sox game with my Ben Affleck friend. I don't want to sit here. I don't want to sit here with Robin Williams and fucking tell him why I know this fucking equation. I don't want to do it. I want to fucking go out with my brothers. I'm an orphan. Good Will Hunting. Anyway, guys, the two of you have been one of my best friends over the past 5 years. We're going to debate about this shit for years. We don't have the time to get into that right now, but I think Scott needs to look at life itself as the glass is half full by stop trying to ruin his childhood. The Forbes guy. Fuck him. Dude, fuck that guy.
I love you, Mikey.
So
you both know Good Will Hunting very well. One's an actor who loves good film, and the other one loves good story. So I know you both know it.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite movies of all time.
I'm smart.
No, I was quoting The Godfather.
Doesn't matter. Both great films.
That's funny. All right. So, Emily, John Boyega kind of looks like what do you think about John Boyega's social media presence recently as it pertains to Star Wars?
I fucking love him, man. He's a guy who just stopped giving a shit after he got unbelievable levels of abuse and disgusting racist stuff thrown his way. And he's somebody who can and should have a career outside of Star Wars, and obviously has felt really burnt by the fan base and is just done and doesn't feel the need to pretend otherwise. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah, Mike, have you seen some of the stuff he's tweeted?
No, I haven't, honestly. You know me, I'm Twitter minimal, but I come on when needed. What's going on? Can you guys fill me in?
I haven't seen anything super recent, but I mean, he's been very he's definitely gotten into it with some Raylos who have thrown shit at him and is just completely over it.
Is there an example on what his comeback was to just a generic fan base, or?
I got one. Recently, there was a picture of Oscar Isaac from Dune, and he looked badass. He had a fucking fat, sweet beard. He was in armor, and he looked mean. And John Boyega, right on Instagram, I think, writes, how come we didn't see that in Star Wars? Basically taking a shot at Star Wars, Did you know what I'm talking about, Emily?
Mm-hmm.
So people freaked out that there was an anti-Star Wars quote. And it might have been, or it might have been just that's a cool look. We should have used that in Star Wars. Actually, just the fact he brought up Star Wars, it was shots fired. It pretty much was. What do you think, Emily?
I think, yeah, you can say shots fired, but I think a lot of the shots fired thing is done fairly good-humoredly, and it's not meant in a super mean-spirited way, but he's a funny guy, and he's an opinionated guy, and he, a lot of time, is posting shit that other Star Wars fans post. And the only time I've seen him really go after people is people who have provoked him, have gone after him intentionally, and then run crying if he says even the slightest thing back to them.
So I also have a bunch of British friends who are MD doctors at North Royal Health Hospital here. My buddy Barrington Pert is a doctor at Mount Sinai in New York. They're British. They're from Wales, both of them. They're brothers. Actually, I grew up with them. And they have the weirdest sense of humor. And you look at them and you'll show them something and they'll make a joke and they think it's hysterical. I'm not trying to profile at all, but they'll think it's hysterical. And then everyone who grew up in Queens, New York, born and raised in the room is that's funny. And then you figure out why it's funny to them. So it's he could have been out with his boys and he sees on Twitter his boy, Oscar, with a fucking dope-ass beard with some sick armor on him, ready to kill some sandworms. And he's that should have been in Star Wars. And everyone takes it so literal. It doesn't have to be that literal. I don't think it was a shot at Star Wars. I think it's his humor and his culture. And you don't know where he was at that time when he wanted to tell that joke and who he was with. Because sometimes I'll tell different jokes on social depending on who I'm with because they're influencing the way that I'm feeling at the moment. Because I spent 10 years with that crew and 10 years with that crew, and I'm already in that mindset. A lot of people may not understand what I'm trying to say, but someone like John Boyega, who's worldly cultured and grew up in the UK and came to America and became a big actor, he may have just wrote that because how he was feeling in the moment. In that moment, that just may have been how he was feeling and wanted to say that, if someone was in front of him, because he's so free-spirited. That's how I feel about him.
Star Wars fans really, really want to take even the slightest joking comment as a personal attack.
Yeah, and what the last thing I want to talk about tonight before we wrap up is a lot of fans differing opinions. And actually, one of my favorite podcasts I listened to in a while was when Steele was on Geek Dude 3 or 4 weeks ago. Did you catch that one, Emily?
Of course, my fiance is on that show. I gotta listen to it.
Okay.
Hey now.
Just fucking rub it
Hey
in.
now.
Just rub it in.
Hey now.
But one of their discussion topics was, you know, how people with differing opinions like get attacked, and like how someone will say, I can't believe you don't like that movie, and if you don't like that movie, then you're a bad person or you're not a good fan. And it's just like, and this is where like, you know, you guys were kind of like touching on that with people being so sensitive, and if you say anything negative Star Wars, God forbid it comes from John Boyega or anyone else, it's like it causes this whole like clusterfuck. And like I just, that's just the word of the day for me. I've been using it all day. Just like clusterfuck. Like really, like, okay, so Mike and I disagree on the Ahsoka thing. Clearly we're okay and our friendship is cool. Now, granted, Emily and I agree on the Ahsoka thing, and like it's bringing us closer together if possible. But like, yeah, like, so let me get your both of your takes on this. Emily will go first because she knows exactly what I'm talking about because she heard the episode with Steele and the Geek Dudes. Like, what's your opinion on that? Like, if someone says like something to you like, what do you mean you don't like The Rise of Skywalker? Like, what do you mean? Like, something's wrong with you then.
There are fans who have their whole identity wrapped up in fandom. So it can't just be that I don't like The Rise of Skywalker. Me just saying I don't like The Rise of Skywalker is through the filter of their intense delusion, I guess, that this is somehow me questioning their judgment or questioning who
They're
they
insulted.
are.
No, they're
Yeah,
insulted.
it's not just I don't like this movie. Like, it's if I don't like this movie that you like, then I'm saying something is wrong with you. And I don't know what
it's
that comes from.
it's almost feel like you're, to a lot of them that I've seen when this has happened to me, they feel like you're being racist to them almost. And that's the extreme. But it's like, or there's something wrong psychologically with you, or politically, let's go to not going political, but like, no, all your views in life are wrong. That's how I've dealt with this. With anytime I've ever gave my opinion and they came back at me. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, it's also, and I mean, partially it's social media, and I don't know what else influenced it, because it's, you know, it's hard to tear it apart when it's so like ingrained in our society now. But it's like when you get into the Marvel versus DC, where you get these really hardcore DC fans who think that liking the Avengers is an attack on them, because it's like this weird, intense community that they've built for themselves. So anything outside of that community, even if you're not talking to them at all, even if you think, hey, I like the DC movies, if you're not one of them, then you're against them. And that it can't just be, hey, you can like all these movies. It's like, because, you know, like there's always a thing of, oh, do you like Star Trek or do you like Star Wars? Which, in my experience, has never actually been a thing that fans have fought over.
Never,
it's like but if you like would take that fake battle, they've turned into a real battle.
But now it's turned against Star Wars fans, which is worse, which should never happen.
I don't know. And like Mike, you actually like mentioned this to me last week or 2 weeks ago. I feel like I've run the gamut of like the Star Wars fandom roller coaster, and now I'm just like, what it is. Like, I've completely mellowed like the past year or two, and like I just don't let stuff like bother me anymore. And now I watch like these Twitter wars and arguments and people doing this and that, and it getting so extreme, and nasty DMs and block this person because I don't like them, all this stuff. And I'm just kind of like watching from afar, like I used to be like that. And like, I'm so glad I'm not now. And not that I don't feel it, I just don't act on it, because it's just, at the end of the day, it's like, it's a movie. And this is someone on Twitter who is anonymous and you'll never see or hear from again as long as you just turn your mind off to it. And then that's kind of like what you were saying about the Ahsoka, Mike. Like, Ahsoka was a lot of people's gateway into Star Wars, and we have to respect that. So as far as like me and Emily are not like super jazzed about Ahsoka being in there, it's going to mean a lot to a big group of people. And we respect and get that. But we're also paid. Well, I'm not paid. I don't know if you're paid. But like we offer our opinion.
I'm paid, but
yeah. I knew something was up.
Yeah.
I knew something was up. Anyway, so it's like, you know, we offer our opinions, and that's what they are. But at the end of the day, dude, just like let it be, you know?
Yep.
Let it be. Just relax. Chill out. That was a pretty awesome episode. Like I think we like totally kicked that episode's ass. I think we hit 2 major topics. I don't know. I think we can wrap this sucker up. Any closing remarks, Miss Lynn? Thank you very much for being an amazing guest on Rogue One.
Oh, no, I guess just thanks for having me on. I'm always excited to talk to you, and I'm very excited that Mike is on this time as well, because the last couple of times I've been on, he has not been. So
I'll be on a lot more often.
yeah, I've noticed that. It's been great to see you, because I think you're both awesome guys, and I'm not only as a podcast that I like to listen to, but I count you both as friends, and so I'm always excited to get to come on your show.
Thank you, Emily.
Aw. And that means a lot to me. It really does. And if there's one thing, like all the Star Wars fandom and drama, like it was worth it, because like I definitely like if it and I've said this before, like if it ends today, I'm walking away with a great handful of friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not gonna list them because you forget somebody and then you get that nasty DM and you're right back in it. You're right back in it.
Johnny,
But,
we had a good run, man. I mean, it's not going to end today at all. We're going to go another 10 years or 20, I hope. But if it did, we had a great run, and I love you as my brother, man. And Emily, you are one of my favorite people in our community.
Aww.
You're a great, true friend of mine. And, you know, a lot of times you've been there for me several times personally. And we're just happy to have you here today. So thank you so much for being here.
Yes, and as I mentioned in the beginning, and Emily just brought up, you can check her and Brittany out on the Canto Bite Dispatch. Amazing podcast. And you're up there now. You're well over 100. What are you, like 130 something?
We just recorded 140.
Okay, yeah, you're in the 140. Okay, wow.
Damn.
Wow. Wow. All right, so where can we, besides that awesome podcast, where can we find the podcast, and where can we find you on social media so the angry Ahsoka people can DM you?
I think my DMs might be closed, but you can find me on Twitter at EFLind. You can find the podcast wherever you find podcasts, including Spotify. Just look for Canto Bite Dispatch. And I also just started a podcast called The Fan and the Furious, where my friend Steve, who is a huge Fast and the Furious fan, has been after me to watch these movies for ages.
Oh my God, I'm totally listening to this.
Yeah,
Holy
he got
fucking
me.
shit.
Going into this, I had seen the first one I ever saw was number 8, and then I eventually saw 1. But now we're working our way through the entire franchise, and yeah, that's called The Fan and the Furious, and like everything else, you know, it's up on podcasts everywhere. So check that out.
That is glorious. The second I get off this, that's what I'm doing.
Do you still do the Star Trek one, Jim? Don't talk to me, Jim.
He's dead, Jim.
He's dead, Jim.
He's dead, Jim.
We haven't, because my co-host lives in Australia, and between the time difference and the fact that like it was a thing where like his wife had changed jobs, so he had the kids all the time, and it became too difficult maybe at some point, but for now it's on, you know, indefinite hiatus. But check out the back episodes. It's still on.
Nice.
And what about you, Michael?
You can find me at Maximum Paps on Twitter. You can also find me at the Rogue One Army Facebook page, group, so to speak, daily, actually. And you can find me in Queens, New York, quarantined. And write me a letter if you'd like to on Facebook Messenger or DM on Twitter. Thank you, sir.
He's like in prison.
I haven't left the house in a considerable amount of time, so it's similar.
I think I gained like 6 or 7 pounds. Like I just
Don't you have a gym in the basement? What do you mean?
I gained like 6 or 7 pounds. And that's a lot for me. That's like 5% of my body weight. I don't know. That's a lot for me. Like
I've lost 10 pounds.
You lost weight quarantined?
I don't eat when I'm stressed. I eat like once a day now.
Oh, I don't like hearing you're stressed.
No,
It's
that
a stressful
happens.
time.
Yeah, that happens. Emily, I love you, girl. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thanks,
Yes.
guys.
I hope and pray that I'll see you in October. I really do. I'm not positive on it, but I'm praying that I'm wrong.
What's in October?
New York Comic Con, where I hang out with her.
Oh.
Where we hang out.
Oh God, listen.
I hope that that's gonna happen.
I'm fully prepared. Star Wars Celebration is going to be canceled, in which Michael, you called on like March 20th. But like, if this shit isn't wrapped up by October, come on, man.
I think there's a good chance we might not be back to you can have a convention with tens of thousands of people, but hopefully we're not in like isolation by then, and we could at least like all go hang out in a bar or something.
Something.
I mean, you guys are probably 15 minutes away from each other, and I'm an hour away from both of you. So like, we can, when this is all done and safely, we should do another Rogue One meetup. We usually have like a dozen people, right? Like the little East Coast crowd. We usually have like a dozen people. Maybe we can get more.
Man, if that was this weekend, I would pray to God for that.
Well, we're gonna do it safe. We're gonna wait till like the world opens up, you know. But like, we'll definitely put it on the list. All right, cool. That we're making plans. And I'm gonna get bombed with Emily and say more embarrassing stuff.
Great.
So we're on YouTube now, so please like and subscribe. We already have 2 thumbs down. It actually did hurt my feelings. I was like, oh, dude. I was like, come on. I'm like, the episode's been up for like 30 seconds and I have 2 thumbs down already. And I'm not even mad about it's not my feelings. It's like Bill Beck like busted his ass to do it. I'm like, don't thumbs down, Bill. So like and subscribe. Get those thumbs up. Rogue One Pod on YouTube. That's all you have to do is search Rogue One Pod. And then I am on Twitter, Rogue One Johnny, Rogue One Pod, and that's ones with a W. And please, a new thing, send in a video question. Like, record yourself asking a question and email it to rogueonepod@gmail.com, and you will be heard and seen on the show, which is awesome. So let's get that done. Also, check out the iTunes reviews. We are now over 300. So once I get in touch with David Gonzalez, we're going to be giving away some prizes. Woo! But just because we hit 300 doesn't mean we stop. So please, if you haven't done so, please fill out an iTunes review. It would really mean a lot to us. It helps get the podcast out there, etc., etc., etc. And we have a TeePublic store with some pretty cool t-shirts. I have to reach out to Adam and then Evan. Ooh. Famous Evan DeChellis is actually working on something that we were going to kind of unleash at Star Wars Celebration, but since that's happening, I got to get in touch with Evan and see if maybe we'll move that up. So we have a couple new things in the works. So yeah, that's about it. Again, thank you to the amazing Emily Lind, and until the next one. Wait!